Hi everyone. Today I will tell you the second episode about the winning book, Mission and Values. So much hot air about something so real. Bear with me if you will. While I talk about mission and values, I say that because these two terms have got to be among the most abstract, overused, misunderstood words in business. When I speak with audience, I am asked about them frequently, usually with some level of panic over their actual meaning and relevance. In New York, I once got the question, can you please define the difference between a mission and a value? And also tell us what difference that difference makes. Business schools add to the confusion by having their students regularly write mission statements and debate values, a practice made even more futile for being carried out in a vacuum. Lots of companies do the same to their senior executives, usually in an attempt to create a noble sounding plaque to hang in the company lobby. Too often, these exercises end with a set of generic platitudes that do nothing but leave employees directionless or cynical. Who doesn't know of a mission statement that reads something like XYZ company's values quality and service, or such and such company is customer driven? Tell me what company doesn't know value quality and service or focus on its customers, and who doesn't know of a company that has spent countless hours in emotionless debate only to come up with values that, despite the good intentions that went into them, sound as if they were plucked from an all purpose list of virtue including integrity, quality, excellence, service, and respect. Give me a break. Every decent company exposes these things, and frankly, integrity is just a ticket to the game. If you don't have it in your bones, you should not be uh, allowed on the field. By contrast, a good mission statement and a good set of values are so real they smack you in the face with their consistence. The mission announces exactly where you are going, and the values describe the behavior that will get you there. Speaking of that, I prefer abandoning the term values altogether in favor of just behaviors. But for the sake of tradition, let's stick with the common terminology. First, about that mission. In my experience, an effective mission statement basically answers one question: how do we intend to win in this business? It does not answer what we were we good at in the good old days, nor does it answer how can we describe our business so that no particular unit or division or senior executives gets pissed off. Instead, the question how do we intend to win in this business is defining. It requires company to make choices about people, investments, and other resources, and it prevents them from falling into the common mission trap of asserting they will be all things to all people at all times. The question forces companies to delineate their strengths and weaknesses in order to assess where they can profitably play in the competitive landscape. Yes, profitability, that's the key. Even Ben and Jerry, the crunchy granola hippie save the world ice cream company based in Vermont, has profitable growth and increasing value for stakeholders as one of the elements of its three-part mission statement, because its executives know that without financial success all the social goals in the world don't have a chance. That's not saying a mission should not be bold or aspirational. Ben and Jerry, for instance, wants to sell all natural ice cream and euphoric concoction and improve the quality of life locally, nationally, and internationally. That kind of language is great in that it absolutely has the power to excite people and motivate them to stretch. At the end of the day, effective mission statements balance the possible and the impossible. They give people a clear sense of the direction to profitability and inspiration to feel that they are part of something big and important. Take our mission at GE as an example from 1981. through 1995, we said we were going to be the most competitive enterprise in the world by being number one or number two in every market, fixing, selling, or closing every underperforming business that could not get there. There could be no doubt about what this mission meant or entailed. It was specific and descriptive, with nothing abstract going on, and it was aspirational too in its global ambition. The mission came to life in a bunch of different ways. First off, in a time when business strategy was mainly kept in an envelope in headquarters, and any information about it was the product of the company gossip mill. We talk openly about which business were already number one or number two, and which business had to get repaired quickly or be gone. Such candor shocked the system, but it did wonders for making the mission real to our people. They may have hated it when business was sold, but they understood why. Moreover, we harped on the mission constantly. At every meeting, large and small, every decision or initiative, we linked it to the mission. We publicly avoided people who drove the mission and let go of people who could not deal with it for whatever reason. Usually, nostalgia for their business in the good old days. Now, it's possible that in 1981 we could have come up with an entirely different mission for GE. Say, after lots of debate and in-depth analysis of technology, competitors, and customers, we had decided we wanted to become the most innovative designer of electrical products in the world. Or say, we had decided that our most profitable route would have been to quickly and thoroughly globally profitable route which have been quickly and thoroughly globally sized every business we had, no matter what its market position. Either of these missions would have sent GE off an entirely different road from one we took. That would have required us to buy and sell different business than we did, or hire and let go of different people, and so forth. But technically, I have no arguments with them as mission. They are concrete and specific. Without doubt, the electrical products mission would have come to as a comfort to most people in GE. After all, that's what most thought we were. The global focus mission would have probably alarmed others. Rapid change usually does. A final word about missions, and it concerns their creation. How do we come up with one? To me, this is a no-brainer. You can get input from anywhere, and you should listen to smart people from every quarter. But setting the mission is top management responsibility. A mission cannot and must not be delegated to anyone except the people ultimately held accountable for it. In fact, a mission is a defining moment for a company leadership. It is a true test of its stuff. And know about those values. As I said earlier, values are just behaviors, specific, nitty gritty, and so descriptive they leave little to the imagination. People must be able to use them as marching orders because they are how of the mission, and the mission means to the end, winning. In contrast to the creation of mission, everyone in a company should have something to say about values. Yes, that can be a messy undertaking. That's okay. In small enterprises, everyone can be involved in debating them in all kinds of meetings. In a larger organizations, it is a lot tougher, but you can use company-wide meetings, training sessions, and the like for as much personal discussions as possible, and internet for broader input. Getting more participants really makes a difference, giving you more insights and more ideas at the end of the process. Most importantly, much more extensive buy-in. The actual process of creating values incidentally has to be interactive. The executive team may come up with the first version, but it should be just that, a first version. Such a document should go out to be poked and probed by people all over an organization over and over again, and the executive team has to go out of their way to be sure they have created an atmosphere where people feel in it's their obligation to contribute. Now, if you are in a company where speaking up gets you backed, this method of developing values just is not going to work. I understand that, and as long as you stay, you're going to have to live with that generic plaque in the front hall. But if you are at a company that does welcome debate, and many do, shame on you if you don't contribute to the process. If you want values and behaviors that you understand and can live with yourself, you have to make the case for them. It's in the 90 gritty details. When I first became CEO, I was certainly guilty of endorsing vague too cryptic values. For instance, in 1981, I wrote in the annual report that GE leaders face reality and live excellence and feel ownership. These platitudes sure sounded good, but they had a long way to go towards describing real behaviors. By 1991, we had made a lot of progress. Over the course of the previous 3 years, more than 5,000 employees spent some portion of their time participating in the development of our values. The results was much more concrete. We printed them on laminated ballot cards. The text included imperatives such as act in the boundaryless fashion, always search for and apply the best ideas regardless of their source, and be intolerant of bureaucracy and see changes for the growth opportunity it brings. Of course, some of the behaviors required further explanation and interpretation, and we did that all the time at meetings, during appraisals, and at the water cooler. Since leaving GE, I have realized how much further still we might have been able to push the discussion about values and behaviors. In 2004, I watched Jamie Dimon and Bill Harrison work together to develop values and behaviors for the new company created by the merger of Bank One and JP Morgan Chase. The document they used to open the dialogue came from Bank One, and its listed values and their corresponding behaviors with a level of detail one had never seen before. Take the values. We treat customers the way we would want to be treated. That's pretty tangible, but Bank One had literally identified the 10 or 12 behaviors that made the value come to life. Here are some of them. Never let profit center conflicts get in the way of doing what is right for the customers. Giving customers a good, fair deal. Great customer relationship takes time. Do not try to maximize short-term profits at the expense of building those enduring relationships. Always look for ways to make it easier to do business with us. Communicate daily with your customers. If they are talking to you, they can't be talking to a competitor. Don't forget to say thank you. Uh, Another value Bank One had was we strive to be the lower cost provider through efficient and great operations. Some of the prescribed behaviors included: learner is better, eliminate bureaucracy, cut waste relentlessly, operation should be fast and simple, value each other's time, invest in infrastructure, we should know our business best, we don't need consultants to tell us what to do. If this level of detail feels overwhelming and even doctrine to you, I can sympathize. Even I first saw Jamie's single-spaced 5-page values and behaviors documents, I nearly fell over. But as I read it, I saw its power. With all the stories I have heard in the past few years from employees in companies around the world, I am convinced you cannot be too specific about values and their related behaviors. And it's in the backup. Charity around values and behaviors is not much good unless it is backed up. Too much values really mean something. Companies have to reward the people who exhibit them and punish those who don't. Believe me, it will make winning easier. I say that because every time we ask one of our high performing managers to leave because he did not demonstrate the values, and we said as much publicly, the organization responded incredibly well. In annual surveys over a decade, employees would tell us we were a company that increasingly lived its values. That made people even more committed to living them too. And as our employees' satisfaction results improved, we did not who did our financial results. And finally, it's in the connection. A concrete mission is great, and values that describe specific behaviors are too. But for a company mission and values to truly work together as a winning proposition, they have to be mutually reinforcing. It seems obvious, doesn't it, that a company values should support its mission, but it's amazingly easy for that not to be the case, as disconnect between the parts of a company framework probably is more a sin of omission than of a commission, but it often happens. The most common scenario, a company mission and its values rupture due to little crisis of daily life in business. A competitor moves into a town and lowers prices, and so do you, undermining your mission of competing on extreme customer service. Or a downturn hits, so you can cut your advertising budget, forgetting your mission is to enhance, extend your brand. These examples of this connection may sound minor or temporary, but when left unattended, they can really hurt a company. In fact, in the worst case scenario, they can literally destroy a business. That's how I see what happened at Arthur Anderson and Enron. Arthur Anderson was founded almost a century ago with a mission to become the most respected and trusted auditing firm in the world. It was a company that prided itself on having the courage to say no, even if that meant losing a client, in succeeding by hiring the most capable, highest integrity CPAs and rewarding them for doing work that rightfully earned the confidence of corporations and regulators around the world. Then the boom times of 1980s arrived, and Arthur Anderson decided it wanted to start a consulting business. That where the excitement was not to mention the big money. The company started hiring more MBAs and paying them the constantly escalating salaries that the consulting industry demanded. In 1989, the firm actually split into two divisions: a traditional accounting division called Arthur Anderson and Anderson Consulting. Both fell under one corporate umbrella called Anderson Worldwide. Rather than values conscious, since consulting firms generally encourage creativity and rewarded aggressive sales behavior, taking the customers from one project to the next. In the 1990s, in particular, there was a real cowboy mentality in the consulting industry, and the accounting side of Anderson felt the impact. Some of its accountants clearly got swept up in the momentum, letting go of the auditing business values that had guided them for so long. Throughout most of the 90s, Arthur Andersen was a firm at war with itself. The consulting business was subsidizing the auditing side and did not like it. And you can be sure that auditing side was not crazy about the bravado of the consulting types. In these circumstances, how could people know the answer to questions like what really is our mission, what values matters most, and how should we behave? Depending on which side of the firm you pledged allegiance to, your answer would be different, and that's ultimately why the patron ended up in court with each other, trying to figure out how to divide the firm's profits. Eventually, in 2002, the house collapsed due to, in no small parts, to the disconnect between its mission and values. In many ways, the same kind of dynamic was behind the Enron collapse. In its previous life, Enron was a simple, rather mundane pipeline and energy company. Everyone was focused on getting gas from a point A to point B cheaply and quickly, a mission they accomplished very well by having expertise in energy sourcing and distribution. Then, like Arthur Anderson, the company changed mission, sometimes got the idea to turn Enron into a trading company again and again, and the goal was faster growth. And the goal was the faster growth. At Arthur Anderson, auditors wearing green eye shades were suddenly sharing office space with MBAs in Armani suits. At Enron, again figuratively speaking, the guys in converts were suddenly riding the elevators with MBAs in suspenders. Enron new mission meant it focused first on trading energy and then on trading anything and everything. That changes were probably pretty exciting at the time, but obviously no one stopped to figure out and explicitly broadcast what values and corresponding behaviors would support such a heady goal. The trading desk was to place to be, and the pipelines and energy generation business got shoved to the background. Unfortunately, that there were no process to provide checks and balance for the suspenders crowd, and it was in that context of no contest that Enron's collapse occurred. Like author Anderson, this story of a mission and values disconnects ends with thousands of innocent people losing their jobs. What a tragedy. That this chapter opened with the conversation that people in business talk a lot about mission and values, but too often the result is more hot air than real action. No one wants it that way, but the loftiness and the impressions inherent in both terms always seems to make it end up like that. But there's too much to lose by not getting your mission straight and by not making your values concrete. I am not saying your company will collapse in flames the way author Anderson and Enron did. They are extreme examples of a mission and values meltdown. But I am saying your company will not reach anywhere near its full potential if all that's guiding that it is a list of pleasant platitudes hanging on the lobby wall. Look, I realize that defining a good mission and developing the values that supports it takes time and enormous commitment. There will be long, contentious meeting when you would rather go home. There will be email debates when you wish you could just go do real work. There will be painful times when you have to say goodbye to people you really like. You just do not get the mission or life's its values.